Hey all you cool cats and kittens. Today we're going to talk about multiplying polynomials, and we are going to do 2 days of this, so this is just day 1. And for this we have a couple different methods, and so we're going to talk about those different methods just to make sure that if one method doesn't work for you, you can always use the other method. So after we finish the notes, if you're on the homework, you can use whatever method you would like. Whatever method is going to help you the best, that's what I want you to use. Okay, so we're going to start multiplying polynomials, and we're going to start with this rainbow method. So remember, when we're talking about the rainbow method, what we're really doing is distributing. So we're multiplying the polynomial negative x squared plus 2x plus 4 and x minus 3. So to do this, I always write the smallest polynomial out front. And this is kind of just more of a preference, so you can write it behind it. That's totally fine, but I've always found it easier to write it before for whatever reason. So I'm going to put these in parentheses because remember, parentheses right next to each other just mean multiplication. And so now I'm going to use my rainbow method, and I have x times negative x squared first. So that will give me negative x cubed. And then I'm going to multiply x times positive 2x, which will give me positive 2x squared. And then my last term, x times this 4, which gives me 4x. And now I need to distribute in this negative 3. So negative 3 times negative x squared gives me positive 3x squared. And then negative 3 times positive 2x gives me negative 6x. And then my last, I have negative 3 times 4 giving me negative 12. So we call this the rainbow method because after we're done drawing all those lines, it kind of resembles a rainbow. So now we have this big long polynomial, and I know that I see a couple like terms in here. So I'm going to combine like terms, starting with my highest degree. So my highest degree is this negative x cubed. So I don't see any other x cubed, so I'm just going to write this one down. And then I'm looking for my x squared. So this term, 2x squared and 3x squared, I'm going to add those together to get 5x squared. Then I'm crossing them off. And then I have 4x minus 6x, which will give me negative 2x. And then I'm just left with this constant of negative 12. All right, so we have one more that we're going to multiply using this method. And y plus 5, I'm remembering to put these in parentheses. 3y squared minus 2y plus 2. And now I'm going to multiply in using my rainbow method. So remember, rainbow method is the same thing as distributive property. So if you've ever heard the term distributive property, it's the same thing. So y times 3y squared will get 3y cubed. And then I want to do y times negative 2y. So that will give me negative 2y squared. And then I have one more here, so y times 2, which will give me 2y. Now I'm moving over to the second term in this first polynomial, so I have 5 times 3y squared, which gives me 15y squared. Then I have 5 times negative 2y, giving me negative 10y. And then I have 5 times 2, giving me 10. And so now, just like the first one, I'm going to simplify this as much as I can. So I'm going to combine like terms, starting with the highest degree. I only have one term with a y cubed, so I'm going to write that down. So 3y cubed. I'll cross that off when I'm done. And now I'm moving on to the variable with the second highest degree. So y squared is my next. So I have the terms negative 2y squared and 15y squared. So negative 2y squared plus 15y squared should give me positive 13y squared. Cross those off. And then I have 2y and negative 10y, so I'm going to add those together and get negative 8y. Cross those off, and then I'm just left with this constant of 10. So my final polynomial, I should get 3y cubed plus 13y squared minus 8y plus 10. Okay. So let's move on to the area of rectangle method, or it's also called the box method. So for this method, I'm just going to draw a box. And I'm going to put my larger polynomial across the top. So I'm going to write out the terms, and I'm remembering to keep the signs with it. Okay, and then I'm down the side, I'm going to write my second polynomial, so x minus 3, x minus 3, and I'm keeping the signs with each of the terms so I know what sign I should end up with. Okay. So now some of you might have done this before, and so I'm going to start in this first box. So I'm not looking at anything else. I'm just looking at x times negative x squared. And so now if I'm multiplying negative x squared and x, I'm going to get negative x cubed. And moving on to the second box, I'm going to multiply x times this 2x, which will give me 2x squared. Okay, and then in this third box, I have 4 times x, which gives me 4x. And then I'm going to do the bottom ones. So now I'm multiplying negative x squared times negative 3, which gives me positive 3x squared. And then I'm multiplying 2x times negative 3, which gives me negative 6x. And then I have this 4 times negative 3, which gives me negative 12. Okay, so now hopefully these numbers look pretty familiar because we did multiply this exact polynomial in our very first example. So now I'm going to take the things in this polynomial and I'm kind of looking at the diagonal. So I'm looking at this term first. There isn't another term that looks exactly like it. So I'm going to cross that off because I know I've used it. And so now if I look at this diagonal right here, these two terms are like terms. So I'm going to add those together. So I have 2x squared and 3x squared, which will give me 5x squared. I'm going to cross those off since I'm done with them. And then I'm looking at this diagonal here, so negative 6x and 4x. When I add those together, I'll get negative 2x and then my constant of negative 12. Okay, so now I have this product down here, and if I look up here, it should be the exact same thing that we got there. Since it is, I know I did it correctly, and so that just shows that there are two different methods here, and I'm going to get the exact same thing. Okay, so then now for my second example, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm drawing my box. I'm going to do my larger polynomial across the top, keep all the signs with it. And if you don't want to add this positive onto your terms, you don't need to. I just like to do it to make sure that I have my correct sign on all of my terms. So then I'm multiplying through, I'm looking at this first box first. So 3y squared plus or times y is going to give me 3y cubed. And then negative 2y times y is negative 2y squared. And then 2 times y is going to give me 2y. Now I'm looking at this bottom, and I have 3y squared times positive 5, which is going to give me 15y squared. And then negative 2y times 5 is negative 10y. And then 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, now again, these numbers should look familiar. And I'm going to write down my finished product when I have combined all my like terms. So I'm looking at this diagonal. I only have one term, so I have 3y cubed. I'm going to cross that off since I'm done. And now I'm looking at this diagonal. I have 15y squared and negative 2y squared. So when I add those together, I should get positive 13y squared. Cross those off. And then I have negative 10y and positive 2y. So I'll get negative 8y when I add those together. And then I'm just left with this positive 10 as my constant. Okay, so now I'm going to look up here and just double check and make sure that those are the exact same products. And they are, so I know I did it correctly. And we're going to move on to multiplying 3 polynomials. So there is a trick to this. You don't need to just multiply all the way across. There is an easier way. So I'm going to first start with these first two. So x minus 1 times x plus 4. So I'm going to start by multiplying this first. So I'm going to distribute in x minus 1 to x plus 4. And when I do that, I'll get x times x, which is x squared. X times 4 gives me 4x. Then I have negative 1 times x, which gives me negative x. Negative 1 times 4, gives me negative 4. Okay, now I'm going to combine like terms, which will give me x squared plus 3x minus 4. And now I use this polynomial, use that one, and I still need to multiply my product that I got from that multiplication by x plus 5. So I'm going to put this in parentheses and I have x plus 5. And now, again, you can go through and use the rainbow method or the distributive property. They're the same thing. And just multiply here. But I have a personal preference to write the smaller polynomial first. I think it makes my life easier. If you don't mind either way, just go ahead and do whatever works best for you. I'm going to rewrite it because I know that this works best for me. So now I'm going to multiply x times x squared, giving me x cubed. Then x times 3x, giving me 3x squared. And then x times negative 4, giving me negative 4x. Okay, now I'm going to multiply this 5 in. So 5 times x squared gives me positive 5x squared. Then 5 times 3x gives me 15x. And then 5 times negative 4 gives me negative 20. Okay, now I'm going to combine like terms, and I'll get x cubed. I'm going to cross that off. And then 3x squared plus 5x squared gives me 8x squared. And then negative 4x plus 15x gives me positive 11x. And then minus 20. So that is my full product there. All right, so now what I want you to do is pause the video and try this next one on your own. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video and your finished product that you should get. I started multiplying these two first just because of the order that they're in. You could multiply these two first. It really doesn't matter what order you multiply in as long as you're remembering to multiply all three. So your finished product that you should get is m cubed minus 7m plus 6.